Calvary greetings to all our partakers, all our online family. I welcome you all to Spirit and Power Ministries. We are the partakers in the divine nature of Christ. My name is Petile, and I am always never alone. I am with my pastor,
Amen.
Pastor Prosper Mateva. Hi, Dad.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, thanks.
I'm really enjoying these teachings because we are becoming enlightened.
True.
The one segment that we just came out of was now you teaching us about the concepts and the culture behind the Hebrew language, because you taught us that the culture influences the language.
Yes.
So it's not the language that influences the culture, but what it's in the language comes from the culture. So we learned various teachings that were able to actually help us put into context some of the most important verses in the Bible.
Yeah.
Then it brings us to today, when you're going to be teaching us, or rather responding to a question, is this really what Jesus said?
Yes.
So I'm very excited to know if really Jesus said this.
Exactly. And it comes to also that Hebrew culture thing, because Jesus was brought up a Hebrew boy. So he was also speaking in the same context.
Okay.
So what then happens is, when we read, there is a lot of things that Jesus said that were controversial, and we're going to look at some of them. We'll not be able to exhaust all of them.
Okay.
But we're going to look at them, and then we're going to see that that's not what we think Jesus meant, is not what he really meant.
Okay, so we misinterpreted what he said.
Yes.
Okay.
But it might be surprising that his audience, there are sometimes that his audience might have understood what he was saying,
because of the cultural background that they were coming from at the time. Okay.
And there was something that he spoke like parables his audience could not understand. But there are some things that he spoke that were normal to the audience that was there at that time.
Okay, so which one are we tackling first today?
Okay, let's look at one of the most maybe theological stories that many people like, where people like to differentiate between the Old and the New Testament and all that. Look, Matthew 5, verse 17 to 19. Jesus said some things there that people teach and preach, but they don't really understand. That's not what Jesus really meant.
Okay.
He
said something, but it's not what he really meant. Okay, let's read this one. We are on Matthew 5, verse 17. Do not think that I have come to abolish the law or the prophets. I have not come to abolish them, but to fulfill them. For truly I tell you, until heaven and earth disappear, not the smallest letter, not the least stroke of a pen will by any means disappear from the law until everything is accomplished. Therefore, anyone who sets aside one of the least of these commands and teachings and teaches others accordingly will be called least in the kingdom of heaven. But whoever practices and teaches these commands will be called great in the kingdom of heaven.
So I did not come to abolish, but I came to fulfill. Many people don't understand that word fulfill, what it actually meant. Because they think the death of Jesus was fulfilling the law. And all that. That's not what Jesus
really saying.
What he really meant was, number one, many people think the law was one thing.
It's not one thing.
It's not one
thing.
I'm
thinking law, I'm thinking the tablets.
Right?
Yes.
There were the commandments,
yes.
But there were also what they called ceremonial laws. You wash like this, you do like this. Those were called ceremonial laws. Then there was also the oral law, the spoken rules that were passed on from one generation to another.
Okay.
So this happened in such a way that the law became confused and mixed up.
Okay.
The Pharisees, they added their own things
to the law.
To the law. That's why when Jesus comes, he's forever attacking the Pharisees. Because they would
diluted.
They began to add things. You must this, you must not do this. Even the laws of the Sabbath, they began to add more laws. So if the Sabbath said this, so you cannot also do this, you cannot also. So they started to add more burdens. So Jesus then comes and says, I did not come to abolish the law, but I came to fulfill it. That word fulfill, it means to rightly interpret it.
Oh, not him dying.
Not him dying. Okay, that's another thing.
Right?
It's good, but that's not what he meant.
He's come to fully interpret the correct
law. To actually do it properly.
Wow, okay.
That's why if you read the Bible, you then hear Jesus saying, you have heard, but I say. He was now correctly interpreting the law.
Wow.
Look here.
Okay.
I don't want you to miss this. We don't discard the Old Testament.
Yes.
The New Testament were letters to the churches.
Yes.
But the Old Testament gives us the lifestyle. Wow. It gives us a better understanding of the culture. So that when we read the Bible, we will understand the Bible better.
In its full context.
In its full context. So we don't discard the Old Testament and say it's, oh, no. Because even when you look at what people call the Old Testament, was Abraham in the Old Testament?
No.
You see, even David, that guy lived beyond his time.
Yes.
So you then realize that we can actually learn more from David than we can learn from something that was mentioned briefly in the New Testament. Wow. Because the New Testament was a response to questions.
Sure. Amen.
So if I study the life of David, I can understand grace more.
That's true.
You understand?
Yes.
So Jesus then comes and says, the law is diluted. It's chaos. People are adding their own laws. Yes. But I have come to properly interpret.
How?
That's why on the next verse, he then says, not even one stroke of the law is going to be abolished.
That's true.
He is trying to say the original law is not wrong.
It's perfect. It's perfect. Still in place.
But what the problem is the interpretation. How these Pharisees are interpreting it for you. They are now making it a burden.
So it was now taught incorrectly.
Incorrectly.
Wow. Amen.
So that's what Jesus
really said. Okay. So now we fully understand that in as much as we might have interpreted it as that Jesus came to say that he is not here to abolish but to fulfill the law. He intentionally means that he is here to actually interpret it correctly. He is here to clean it up for us to now be able to fully understand it in its context, in what was truly said by God to humanity. This is what Jesus really meant when he was talking about fulfilling the law. He was here to clean it out for us, to make it clearer, to make it purer, to make sure that we understood it in its purest form. Thank you so much for joining us today. I hope you understand now and you know now what Jesus really meant in Matthew 5 from verse 17 to 19. Until we meet on the next segment of What Did Jesus Really Say? Goodbye.